what we're going to do is we're going to look at equations that look like quadratics but really aren't, but we can actually solve them like quadratics. So remember that quadratic equations are the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. And if I'm looking at the first term here and the second term here, we can see that actually z to the fourth is actually the square of z squared. And in each one of these, x squared is, x to the fourth is the square of x squared. X is the square of x to the 1/2. Remember, that's the square root of x. And each one of these works where my second term is actually can be simulated as x and my first term is the square of that. So if I had something, for example, if I had x cubed plus x plus 6 is equal to 0, that wouldn't be 1. It's not simply where I just have 2 more, because I can't take this x and square it to get the first term. So it has to be something where I can definitely square the first variable, or excuse me, the middle term to get the variable at the front. So that's the starting point. So how do we do this? Well, in the most general terms, when things are set up beautiful like this, in descending order of degree, I can simply look at it and say, well, I think the middle term is going to be basically the same as my x. And what letter they use in this case is they use the letter u. So if I set u is equal to that middle variable, or that middle term, not the 5, but just the variable there, then I can look and see, well, this is the same as z squared squared, so, or u squared. This is the same as 5u, and this is the same, well, 4, there's no variable there, so we have that solved. And remember, because this is the same as z squared squared, and this is the same as 5z squared plus 4, and what we've done is we've replaced that z squared with u, that z squared with u. Okay. Now we've got this. Now it looks like a quadratic that we've solved in other parts of the class, in another video. So what I can do, you can choose any method you'd like. In this case, I choose to do it by factoring. So I can do u minus 4 and u minus 1 is equal to 0. And then, so that means, remember, when we solve by factoring, we set each factor equal to 0. And so u is equal to 4 here. And I set u is equal to, excuse me, set this factor equal to 0, u minus 1 is equal to 0, so that means u is 1 here. Now normally when we solve quadratics, I'm done. But remember, we're looking for z. So actually what I'm doing is I'm trying to find z, not u. So what happens a lot of times is when we do this, we kind of stop and say, oh, I'm done. But we have to put this, oops, I meant to highlight that, not cross it out. We have to put this here in for our u. So when you're done, don't forget to take it back and say, well, u is equal to 4. That means z squared is equal to 4. And u is equal to 1. That means z squared is equal to 1. So the final answer, taking the square root of both, is that z is equal to positive negative 2, taking the square root of both sides. And on this side, z is equal to positive negative 1, taking the square root of both sides. So this is actually your answer. So let's do it again. So first of all, we have to find what we're going to set u equal to. Well, I'm going to set u is equal to x squared. So pause the video and see if you can't rewrite it with u instead of x squared. And this is what we get when we put u in for x squared. So this is x to the fourth is x squared squared, or u squared. Then I have minus 8u instead of 8x squared, and then the 9, the constant, is still there. So pause the video and solve. I can solve by factoring, I can solve by completing the square, I can solve by using the quadratic equation. So go ahead and solve that. Hopefully this is what you got. So when we put this in, now we have x squared, because u is equal to 9, we have x squared is equal to 9, or u is equal to 9, so x squared is now equal to 9. So taking the square root of both sides, we have that x is equal to a positive or negative 3. Remember, every time we take the square root, we have to take the positive or the negative into account. Doing this over here, u is equal to negative 1, so that means x squared is equal to negative 1. And when we take the square root of both sides, remember the square root of negative 1 is I. So x is equal to positive negative I. So let's, and again, this is your answer here. I always want to, I don't know why. Well, let me do that. There we go. I want to highlight it there. That's my answer there. So let's do it again. We have here that x is x to the 1/2. Remember, that's the square root of x, and that the square root squared is x. So we set u equal to the middle term if everything is written in descending order. Or we can also write u is equal to the square root of x. That's the same thing. So again, with the quadratic, we have u squared minus u minus 20 is equal to 0. And then pause the video and use, whether it's factoring or your quadratic equation, solving with completing the square, go ahead and find the values of u. And we get these values. So once again, once you have the value of u, you don't stop here. You put what u was equal to. So we have the square root of x is equal to 5. We also have the square root of x is equal to negative 4. Keep in mind that we can never have a square root give us a negative value. Remember, the bracket over is only asking for the positive value, so this leads us to no solutions on this one. But I can square both sides here because we have the square root. Remember, that bracket means wanting, that radical sign means wanting the positive value. So we have x is equal to 25 over here. So there's only one answer to this particular solution. Now pause the video and go ahead. I'm going to pick u. And then from there, I also want you to solve it. So I'm going to pause and unpause the video with the different steps. So we have u is equal to x squared. Hopefully that's what you get. So then our equation is going to be u squared plus 4u minus 32 is equal to 0. Pause the video and find out what u is equal to. So getting u is equal to negative 8 and u is equal to 4, then we're going to put the x squared back in for u. So x squared is equal to negative 8, and then taking the square root of both sides, I get x is equal to positive negative square root of negative 8. And then that reduces down to positive negative 2i square root of 2. And then on this side we have x squared is equal to 4. So that means x is equal to positive negative 2.